Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa had Mahendranath Gupta, or M, a school teacher, as his English interpreter. Here, Munagala was Bhagavan's M. Munagala kept a record of whatever he interpreted. He would then take the notebook to Bhagavan, who would edit or correct what had been written. That is how we have talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. I have seen the original manuscript myself in the form of notebooks with Bhagavan's corrections. I also had the honor of typing some of those handwritten manuscripts along with devotees. The whole typed bulk was submitted to a committee of selected devotees, most of who were staying in Chennai. When the edited bulk was returned, it was handed over to Munagala and Chadwick for further verification. Pages after pages were struck off with red ink, with one repeated remark on the margin, repetition. When Chadwick saw these deletions, he got so upset and angry that he rushed into the office and shouted, "Who are these people to delete passages quoted from Bhagavan?" Bhagavan has a special purpose in repeating the same passage worded differently. It is to suit each seeker's individual understanding capacity. Not a single word should be removed. They were all verified and approved by Bhagavan. His exhortation was carried out. We owe the present full version of talks to Chadwick. Major Chadwick had the highest respect for the veracity of Munagala's capacity. So much so, Chadwick once humorously said, "Munagala is the English mouth of Bhagavan." Bhagavan, sensing the intelligence and enthusiasm of his disciple, asked Munagala to translate ancient texts like the Tripura Rahasya, the Advaita Bodha Dipaka, and the Kavalya Navanitam. It is an interesting story how the Tripura Rahasya came to be translated by Munagala into English. Once, Daivarata, who was staying at Nepal, sent Bhagavan a hand-copied manuscript of a Sanskrit text entitled Tripura Rahasya that he had read at the Royal Library. Bhagavan was happy reading it and expressed that a translation of it in English would help seekers who could not read Sanskrit. Munagala volunteered to undertake that work. On reading the English version, Chadwick was so happy that he offered help to type it and arrange for a special black leather cloth binding for it. It was then presented to Bhagavan, who kept it in the revolving library shelf next to his couch. It was lent to serious seekers who were keen to read ancient Advaitic text. Bhagavan appreciated this English translation by Munagala so much that he encouraged him to translate the Kavalya Navanitam from Tamil and the Advaita Bodha Dipaka from Sanskrit into English. They were also typed, leather-bound, and kept in the library next to Bhagavan's couch. Only later were they printed as ashram publications. With the cooperation of David McIver, Venkataramiah had already translated into English Bhagavan's Arunachala Stuti Panchakam, the 5 heart-melting Tamil poems to Arunachala. This was the seed and foundation for the future edition of Collected Works of Ramana Maharshi that was edited by Arthur Osborne. The close association between Bhagavan and Munagala is a paradigmatic example for true guru-sishya relationship. Munagala was a personification of peace, calmness, and inner happiness. A welcoming smile always adorned his serene face. He hardly mingled with the crowd. Except for worship at the shrine of Bhagavan and coming to have food at the dining hall, he was rarely seen in public. The rest of the time he was inside his room reading the Upanishads. He inspired many seekers, not through preaching, but by his quiet spiritual life. I was fortunate enough to come in close contact with him and be inspired by his exemplary life. That is the marvelous spiritual trait I have observed in all the old devotees. They inspire the younger generation through their own living of the truth, as the truth, rather than preaching about truth. Two significant instances in my own life show how Munagala guided young seekers. When I settled at Ramanasramam in 1960, a few old devotees criticized Ganapati Muni to me. They claimed that many of the Muni's accounts were merely figments of his imagination. I felt distressed. I approached Munagala, who had not seen Ganapati Muni and was neutral about him. When I asked him why well-read devotees slighted the veracity of Ganapati Muni's accounts, he told me, "It is not good for you to accuse anyone, especially devotees of Bhagavan. How did you come to know about the accusations against that great man? Were they not the opinions of others? Opinions sprout from the mind. Truth sparkles only from the heart. Whenever you have doubts, turn instantly your attention to Bhagavan and do not take to others' opinions. Bhagavan will guide you." Bhagavan has extolled the Muni's immense capacity for knowledge and dedication to truth. For instance, one day Bhagavan spoke appreciatively of the Muni for about an hour and how he had wrote the Uma Sarasam and the Hari Sarasam, how he taught his students the ancient scriptures, how meek and humble he was, so learned and capable, how austere he was in doing japa, and how well he achieved what he aspired for. Also, when the news of the Muni's passing reached Bhagavan in 1936, he remarked, "Where are we going to see another like Nayanmar?" Which was Bhagavan's pet name for Ganapati Muni. I thanked Munagala from within my heart for this soul-elevating explanation. Another day, a lady saint named Mother Rama Devi came to the ashram. She had a lot of followers. She would go into a trance whenever some verses were sung. One evening, Munagala came to my room and invited me to attend a bhajan session of Rama Devi. I told him that I was not interested and added, "I have my Bhagavan. That is enough for me." Munagala turned to me with childlike innocence and said, "You have read books on Ramakrishna Paramahansa, haven't you?" "Yes, Swami." "You must have read about the fact that Sri Ramakrishna used to go into a state of Mahabhava Samadhi. We have only read about it, but have never experienced the state. Ramadevi goes into that same divine state. This is not a psychic state. It is purely spiritual. And to my knowledge, and the knowledge of others, after Sri Ramakrishna, only Mother Ramadevi is able to attain that spiritual state." Munagala then took my hand and gently led me to the hall and made me sit next to him. The bhajan was going on and Ramadevi was deep in meditation. In the midst of the bhajan, she got up abruptly. Munagala told me, "She has gone into Mahabhava Samadhi. Keep looking at her and be reverential." The bhajan was about the mother goddess destroying the demon. Ramadevi enacted the scene, dancing as if she had the sword in her hand and was slaying the demon. Ramadevi was big-built, so it was astonishing to see her quick, swirling movements. Finally, she went into Samadhi after slaying the demon, just like the Puranas say. She stood on one leg, holding the imaginary head of the demon in one hand and the sword in the other. And just then Munagala whispered to me, with that kind of build, it is virtually impossible to stand on one leg. It is only the Lord who supports her in that position. I have always been attached to Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa and have wondered about how these Mahabhava Samadhis would look like. Now, through Munagala, this wish of mine was fulfilled. I was in some kind of muddled state, and Ramadevi released me from that.